SQL Server. Actually, what I was planning is, I was planning to do both SQL Server with IIS, but I feel that that would be too big tutorial, right? So what my plan is to this lecture, we will just dedicate to SQL Server, how to take SQL Server inside Docker. And then the next lecture will say SQL Server with IIS connection or with MVC core connection and all, right? So let us not try to confuse both MVC and SQL Server first in the first go, right? Because when I was going through the demo, right, I found that I need to discuss about the Linux images. I need to discuss about how to change the RAM. I need to discuss about how, in case if you don't want a Linux image and if you want a Windows image, then how things changes, right? So I can see that too many complications out here when it's coming to SQL Server. So let us start, right? So guys, the first thing is, I'm giving you a nice link out here, which is this Microsoft GitHub link, which is coming from the Microsoft itself. And it has very, very nice ready-made files, which works on production. And it has also followed some good and best practices out here, right? So I'm putting this link over here. I can also give this link in the chat, right? If somebody wants to refer it, right? Yes, I'll take that, how to assign the number of processors and how to assign, because when you're talking about SQL Server, right, definitely you'd like to give ample RAM and ample processor. We'll do all that, right? Let us start with some points out here. Point number one, SQL Server can run on Linux also. We have two versions of SQL Server, one which can run on Linux and one which can run on Windows, right? Now, so for example, now let us take this simple example. If I want to go and create let us say if I want to go and take a SQL Server and run inside Linux, very simple it is. You will just say docker pull. Look at this. Look at the syntax out here, very simple, right? So you can just say docker pull, get that MS SQL Server, and then say docker run. You will say, okay, 1433 port of the external terminal. Remember, 1433 port is where SQL Server runs, right? And you can just say docker run, right? Or if you want it, you can also go this way. If you want to have a very lengthy command, you can say, okay, docker run. It should run with the SA password and take everything from this Microsoft MS SQL Server Windows, right? You can either say MS SQL Server Windows or you can say either MS SQL Server Developer. So in other words, you can do in two ways. One is you can do a docker pull. So the image gets pulled to your local, and then you can say docker run with the image name, right? Or other, what you can do, you can just say docker run. You can just say docker run out here. Look at this, right? And in this, you can see, let me copy this. So let me remove certain things. Let me remove this attach DB and all. We'll talk that later, right? So again, what you can do is if you want to fire both the commands in one go, you can just say docker run 1433. Now, please note that you should keep a local volume. A local mount should be there. Why? Because when you actually go and create an MDF and an LDF, you want that the MDF and LDF should be seen in your local host so that you can take a backup of it or you can take a copy of it. In case if the Docker container goes down, you don't want to lose your MDF and LDF. So you can see yesterday we discussed about how to mount the volume, remember? So this is the host volume and this is the Docker volume, right? So this is the mapping done. I've just put SA out here. We'll see later on how to do Windows authentication, right? SA password and this and this. And I'm saying take from this image, go and take Microsoft SQL Server, the developer edition. Remember, SQL Server has 3 editions. One is the Express edition, Another one is your professional edition, enterprise edition. And the last one is a developer edition. Developer edition, you can run it free. It is for a single developer. He can test everything. Express edition, if you want to go on production and you don't want to pay money for SQL Server and you just have your limit of your database is 510 GB and you have hardly 10-15 user connecting, you can use Express. And yes, if you are talking about, a lot of users connecting, big load, you will go for professional or this one, right? So here I'm saying Windows developer. So if you want to say Express, then accordingly you have to get the image, right? Now what happens is if you try to run this, now remember, point number one, at this moment, our Docker image, our Docker container is running as Windows container. Our Docker container is running as Windows container. So what will happen is if I try to run this command, I don't think I will get, because this is a Linux image. So if I try to run this, look at this. If I try to run this, right? Run from an image. Okay. Actually, let me take up the other command. This one I changed something. So even if I try to do this, Docker pull, assume, take up a Windows edition out here. The Docker run should also run, but let me take this one. Docker pull, if I try to do, you can see that it says that the system cannot find the file specified. It says Docker login. Yes, the first thing is that you have to be logged in into Docker, right? So what I will do is I already have created an account in Docker. You can see correspond out here. If you don't have an account, you can go and create an account, right? So let me go and sign in with Docker out here. So I'll just say Docker login, right? So go out here and say, this is PowerShell. Where is it? So, so I'll just say Docker login. The first thing it is saying that MS SQL Server Windows developer not found. So the issue is something else. The issue is something else. I think he's not getting this Microsoft SQL Server Windows developer. Let me try to, why is he not getting it? This one should have worked, right? Let me see. So, sending these commands. Yeah. Let me try this. Why am I getting this? Okay. First thing, this is saying that the I don't know why this image is not found. This image should be found. Let me see my notes out here. What went wrong? SQL Server Windows developer. This should work. I don't know why he's not getting this image, right? Even though if I'm able to pull, right, this, you will find that there is an error which I will get, which says that this is a Linux image. Even if at this moment it is showing some error of my login, which it should not, right? I don't know why it is showing it. If I say Docker login, might not be up to date. This and this is not there. The password system the system cannot complete access to your terminal. What happened? Okay. The point is that even if I was able to run this, even if I don't know why it is not running. It's strange. I practice everything before you guys, right? The point is that even if this goes and tries to make a pull, it will actually show that this is a Linux image and it is not a Windows image. Point number one, right? So for that, what I have to do is I have to go here and I have to go and change this to Linux, which probably I don't want to do, because if you see most of the developments, what are happening at this moment, those developers are happening in proper SQL Server. At least if I'm using SQL Server, I have a proper Windows installed and I'm actually installing SQL Server Windows version on Windows, right? So that means now this Docker pull or this Docker run will not really work for us, right? Why? Because this is a Linux image. Okay, point number one. So that means that we need to have a workaround for it, right? So the workaround for it is that you have to use PowerShell the hard way, right? So if you see Microsoft has given some couple of files which at least work fantastically well for me. So you can see there's a Docker file out here. Okay. So if you look at this Docker file, I have already pasted it out here. Let us understand it. So just quickly, if you try to run that, you will get, in case if you have a Linux container, you can just say Docker pull this image, Docker run with that 1433 port, say password, done, right? Very easy. But if you say you want to run in a Windows container, then things become difficult, right? So over here, now this is a ready-made file of Docker, which I have got from Microsoft, right? From that same link. So I will use this. So in this, you can see first thing, we are actually getting the Windows Server core out here, right? The second thing, what he's doing is that he's actually going and creating some environmental variables. What are these environmental variables? First thing you can see he's using SQL 2016. So where is the exe link? That is what it is over here. So this is an environmental variable saying exe, right? And then he's creating more couple of environmental variables like the SA password, where the password will be stored, right? Okay. After that, you will see that he actually goes ahead and he tries to, so if you see your shell command over here, what he does is he actually tries to download that exe, okay. So after this, you can see he is running a PS1. I'm sorry, right? What is this PS1? This PS1 is all, where Microsoft has done all that magic, this start.ps1. If you look at the start.ps1, please note that this is a ready-made file which came from Microsoft. It is not my file out here. So this start.ps1 is this. So what does this start.ps1 do? This start.ps1 does all that magic. What he does is he goes ahead, he takes your password, what you have passed. In case you want to attach any database, right? In case you want to attach any database, those databases also it will take. I'll show you where the databases are, right? And then after that, you will see he is actually changing the SA login. He is actually running the SQL CMD. He's actually invoking the query just to check that, if this query is running, right? If the query is running, select 1 equal to 1, that means your these things are starting, right? So you can see this couple of things, this is a ready-made thing which we have got from there. It just goes and starts SQL, right? The next thing you can see out here, what he does is he actually goes ahead and he also downloads, he actually goes and starts the service. So basically after the SQL Server is installed, he stops and starts the service, right? He sets your password, or these are all basic commands. You can see over here, SQL CMD, he's saying select 1 just to check that SQL Server is running, and that's it. So basically this is a ready-made file which does all that, right? And I would suggest to follow this file rather than trying to create yourself, okay? The second thing is this Docker file takes help of 2 other files, okay? Now these 2 other files are what? Okay. These 2 other files are, the first one is the dbconfig file, okay? I would suggest everyone, please don't try to write this file yourself. The file which I'm showing now, it works for all the Windows container of SQL Server, which I have installed till now, right? So this file actually works fantastically well. Now you can see there is a db.json file. What is this db.json file? This db.json file is a file, where in case you have a database, in case you have an existing MDF and LDF, you can go and you can put those attached MDF out here. And definitely you have to map your C temp directory, your local C temp, you have to map it. If you remember our command, which we were trying to fire, in that we were trying to map the C temp with C temp. So if you want to go and attach something out here, you can use the attach DBs, right? And that's what in the command, if you see, he's saying attach DBs from where? From the db.config file. So this is again one more beautiful file provided out there. In case you don't have any DBs to be attached, you can just delete this, right? If you want to go and also provide memory and CPU, you can say CPUs and whatever RAM you want. Now, please note, if this was Linux container, right? If this was Linux container, then what happens is, by default, you can go here to your settings and you can see you can go to your resources and you can see, you can allocate your RAM and so on, right? But at this moment, this is not a Linux container. This is a Windows container. For Windows container, we don't have anything like that. So only there are 2 ways to do it. Either you have to start fiddling around with this Hyper-V, or you have to, when you actually do a Docker run, just make sure that you provide the memory and the CPUs out here, right? Good. So again, let me explain. First, they have given a Docker file. They have given a Docker file out here, right? This Docker file goes ahead and he installs SQL Server and he calls a start.ps1. What that start.ps1 does, that start.ps1 goes and starts your service. It goes and it makes some keys out there and so on, right? So this start.ps1 does that. And after that, we actually go ahead and start our SQL Server over here, right? And also there is one more file, which I've already mentioned, the db.config file, db.json file, where we can go and we can attach, if you have some files which has to be attached from locally, you can do that, right? So with all that now, what we'll do is we'll go out here. So this file is all copied here. So I'll go to my CSQL. Okay. So my CSQL has everything. Now remember, the start.ps1 file should be put where Docker file is. In case you're putting somewhere else, it will not work, right? And at this moment, my db.json file is empty because I have nothing to attach at this moment, right? So let me go out here, okay? And so your screen. So what I will do is, so we will go now and we'll do the following. So inside wherever our file is running, what we are doing out here, look at this, Docker run, right? On the external host is 1433. Look at this. I'm putting my cursor out there. External host is 1433. Internal Docker is 1433. In your C temp directory, you would like to map your volume with the C temp directory at the top, right? The password is pass@123. In case if you want to maintain your security, please, these things you should actually store it in some kind of a key vault or either at least in an environmental variable and so on. At this moment, I don't have any attached attached DBs, right? So I'm going to go and delete that, right? And so, oh, sorry. I have to first do a Docker build. What am I doing? Oh, guys, I have to do a Docker build. So sorry. So extremely sorry. First, we have to do a Docker build. Docker run comes later on, right? So Docker build. So if you remember our Docker build command. So sorry, right? So Docker build and the image name, that's it. So we'll say here, right? So I'll just say SQL image 1. Right. So sorry for that. A Docker run will come after that. So there it is, enter, right? Now, it will first go through the Docker file out there. That Docker file will run that PowerShell command out there, right? And repository name must be in lowercase. Okay. Remember, the complete Docker is Linux based. So start using lower cases. Okay. So there it is. You can see over there. Now remember, I have already ran this command out here. So you can see this, it went very fast here. This start.ps1 and all that executed very fast. You know why? Because already this file I have already run. And if you see here, the SQL Server image must have been stored over here in the cache. So if I see the images out here, something would be an SQL Server image. You can see some Microsoft images out here and server core images, right? So I think, this image is already out here. So I don't think that this should take too much time, right? So there it is. And it is running this whole thing. Once the image is created, then you will go and you will do a Docker run, right? So what we'll do is we'll do the following. We'll do a Docker run, right, of the SQL image 1, and we'll create a SQL instance 1, right? We will give this as a password. This is our mapping. And we will say that the memory should be, this much MB RAM, and at least 3 cores we should allocate. Now, I don't know that if I have 2 cores or 3 cores. I hope that I do have 3 cores out there. I think when I created this container, I don't know if I've created 3 core or 2 core. Let us see. Okay. Right. Okay. So guys, did we get these 2 things? First is, if you want to go and just run inside, just run the Linux one, it is very easy. Docker run and this, and Docker run and this, and just specify the password and all, and it is done, right? But if you say no, like I want to install the Windows SQL Server, then you need to rely on this GitHub link which I've sent, and I found that link is actually not having bugs as well. It does have a small bug. It does have a small bug out there, which I fixed it. So if you see here in this thing, what they have done is this Docker file, this URL is wrong. You can see this Microsoft Server Core. I have changed it to something else. So that Microsoft Server Core, that image is no more available. So what I've done is I have changed that to, some other file, some other image which was available. So if you see out here,
Let me change that file name. Yeah. So I've taken this one, the Microsoft Server Core 2019. So that only that change I had to do. And I think I did some couple of changes here and there because it was showing some exceptions. Those I fixed, but it was a pretty straightforward thing. Okay. So let us see what our thing is. It's doing still here. It is still running, right? So I hope it will run. Okay. So guys, any question on the basic part? On the basic part of the different types of SQL Server, the ready-made script which is available, and the Linux version, and what not to give, and etc. Right? Okay. Any queries here? Yeah, Ravindra actually had opened up a new CMD, but I don't know what happened. Remember, guys, it is still, I think, that caching, it happens at the Docker file level, but at the level of the PowerShell command, there is no caching as such, right? So you can see it is still doing the thing. So any queries till then? Yes. Any questions? Yes. Can we run full enterprise version? Yes. If you have a license, why not? You have to provide the license file, license key, and yes. How to provide the license key? So see, the license key that has to be provided from PowerShell. So PowerShell at this moment, this PowerShell, what they have written, it does not do it, but you need to do that, right? You need to do it yourself. So I don't think they have done that. They have installed the this one here, SQL 16. I didn't check, what is the version, but I think it is a developer edition, right? So you will need to provide the keys somehow through the PowerShell. Through the PowerShell only you will do it. Remember, if you don't get any answer, your answer is PowerShell, right? So you can run the full enterprise version. Why not? And remember, for every installation of Docker, you have to pay. So don't think that you will take one version and install many Docker. I don't think that is allowed. Okay. So let me just check. What is this? SQL 16. Right. So that is a developer edition, I think. So it is a developer edition. Okay. They have a developer edition. Okay. It's a developer edition. Okay. Let us check if our command has completed. It's taking some time. Okay. Acha, what I've also done is just, before we move ahead. So once when I configure my SQL Server inside the Docker, I would like to connect to it. So on my host machine, I've installed SQL Server Management Studio. So here I've installed SQL Server Management Studio. And from here, I will connect to that thing, right? To the internal SQL Server. Now, remember, at this moment, I can just use the local host because it will get a local host IP, right? So I can just use local host and I have to only provide the SA password which I create. So that also arrangement I've kept out here. So once this image creates, we can go ahead and we can do that, right? And also one more thing, when we create a MDF file or a LDF file, very important, when we create a MDF file and a LDF file, we would like to go and provide the local path. So if you remember, when we'll do a Docker run, we have still not done a Docker run, we'll be providing the ctemp folder. So when we do a local file, we will say, oh, like go and do it in the ctemp. So we'll not create the MDF and LDF into that program, SQL Server, something data and all, right? So we'll create it in temp. So then in our host machine, we can see our MDF and LDF as well, right? So again, that thing also we'll see. So you can see, I think it is now running, and congratulations to everyone. The image has been created. So SQL image 1 has been created, right? Now we'll go and do a Docker run, okay? So let us go and do a Docker run. I'll come to questions. So hide this, one of the problems with this. Okay. So let us go and copy paste this, right? And let us see this runs out here. SQL image 1, everything small. Okay.
So Docker run 14334 port, which is the default port of SQL Server. And on the both the places, we have kept the same name, same port number, ctemp. Let me just make sure that we have ctemp in our local folder. So, sorry. So let me check if, how do I, let's write this. My Windows, because of that resolution. So let me just check out here in my, I have a ctemp. So okay. You can see, before this, I created a test.mdf and that test.mdf is seen out here. So I just wanted to make sure that our demo is running from the old one, that test.mdf is there, right? So I just deleted it. So let us go back again and let us see our command, right? So something is wrong in my resolution. I'm not getting hold of the terminal services. Okay, so there it is. Memory, we are saying, please allocate 812 MB RAM. We are saying 3 CPUs. In case if my CPUs don't match, in case, let us say I have 2 CPUs and I'm trying to allocate 3 CPUs, he should throw me an exception. And other things are all okay, right? So just to make this demo running, let us run it. Denied. Why? Unable to find SQL instance 1. Why he should find SQL instance 1? I have SQL image 1, isn't it? So first is the instance name, then is the image name. Inst 1, image 1. Let us see if our image name is image 1. That is the image, SQL image 1. That is right. So what is the problem here? So looks to be okay. SQL inst 1, I just gave a short name to it. Windows version, this. What? Yeah, let me just restart my command prompt. Why it is showing these exceptions? Let me just, I'm not even going online to fetch now. One as administrator. I have to go inside the directory. Please note. No, yeah, now I don't have to go to the directory, right? Because the image is created. So let us run. It cannot find, sorry. What is my syntax? It should be, instead of hyphen name, instance name. Yeah, I think, what is that situation? I have messed up with the syntaxes. So first is the instance name, isn't it? And then is the image name. Hyphen name equal to instance. No, I can say this also. Why not? This and this. That's it. Something else. Actually, I think this CPUs, such a bad error. Such a bad error it is. Let me remove this. I feel this CPU thing should go top. I feel so. I mean, like, I feel that this should go over here. You can see this one is like, this one should go first. The name should be the last. I feel so. So let me do that. I've just taken the CPUs here and this here. Okay. I think so. That's a very bad error. It's confusing. Let us see. Enter. Such a nonsense error it was showing me. You can see that, I mean, that error was telling something access denied. The only thing is that I should put that thing before the CPUs before that, right? Very bad. Fine. Our instance is created. Let us go and check, right? Okay, our instance, right? So there is a SQL instance which is created and it is there. It is running very nice, right? I would like to just stop it once and just check that if everything is running. So what I can do is, you can see I've just stopped it out here down below. And let me go to my view details and let me just check if everything is good out here. So what I'll do is I will just clear all this. So I'll just run this, to see that everything is good or not. So let us see. Why I can't see anything? Right, starting SQL Server. Nice. Okay. So that means that this is running and good, right? So now what we can do? Now we can go and use our local host. So this is our local host out here. SA and the password, which was password@123, and I should be able to connect. Voila, right? So you can see now I can connect to now this I'm connecting to, please note, to my Docker container, right? Now let us go and create a database. And what should happen is when I create this database file out here, I would like to create in that temp folder. Please understand. I want to create in the temp folder, right? So now this is something you have to take care out here. So I'll just say, okay, my DB123. And I would say, sorry, this is okay. And we would say out here, change this to C temp. Very important. Even this one, I would like to change it to the LDF also. I would like to change to C temp. Right. Okay. And let us say okay. And so there our database is created. Nice. Now what we would like to do is, we would like to go and check in our temp folder. You can see that because this drive was mapped, remember that command? Remember that command, this drive was mapped. This was mapped here. The C temp of the local : was mapped with the C temp of the server of the Docker container. C temp of the local host was mapped to the C temp of the Docker, right? So there it is. And then that's it. So our SQL Server is running. And that's how you will install a SQL Server inside the Windows container. Okay, Windows container. The other one, which I showed, right, the Linux will throw up an exception. I don't know why I did not get an exception. It's very strange. Let me try again. This one here will throw up an exception actually. So let me try this one. Let me try to pull this. I don't know why it did not throw up an exception. So let me try again with a new command line, must be run as administrator. And let me do this. It says repository note. Yeah, so must be in the Docker Hub. It is not present. What about this one? It clearly shows an error, guys. It clearly shows an error. MS SQL Server Windows. That's the name they have given everywhere. I don't know why it is showing access denied, because I am logged into my Docker, right? Fine, but if this works, right, you will get that this is a Linux container and you cannot do it, and then you have to do all this thing, what I've shown out here. So, guys, any questions here till now? What we have done? Yes. Okay. So let me start from the top. How to assign the processors and number of processors I've already shown. How to assign RAM, one more question from Rajendra, that also I've shown. How to show Docker container as a machine in the network, right? So means how to see now it gets an IP address, frankly, right? If you go and if you say Docker inspect, it will show the IP address, and that IP address, then you can start using it, right? Let me see here. SQL Server also uses TempDB. So how it is configured inside the container? See, SQL Server uses TempDB, etc. So that is configured like how we have C program files. So by default, guys, it will actually use C program files and install it. In case you want to change the file, PowerShell. You have to go inside PowerShell, hunt it, right, and do it. In case you want to do it for the Linux container, then again you have, please note that over there, it is pretty much standard. Only what you can do in the Linux container, when you do a Docker build, right, you can provide these parameters like attach DB and all that, right? So that way also you can go and configure where to install it. So I would like to back up the MDF file. So if you want to go and back up the MDF files, I've already said you have to do a mount out here, and then it gets exposed like this, and you can copy paste it, right? How to auto scale a Docker in case the database size increases. See, when you actually go and create this database out here, right? Now, I don't know, if you're saying the database size increases, then that is a part of the creation of the database. Please understand. So when you say a new database out here, if you see that there is auto growth, I don't know if that is a question. No? Okay. If your question is regarding the size, then you will go and this is the auto growth, you will change it. I mean, it's automatically, it is growing. Okay. But if you say no, like I'm talking about the performance. So I want to, multiple Dockers to write to an array of a disk, then the configuration is very different, right? So if your configuration about scalability, then I would suggest that you have to have a RAID array. And to configure a RAID array, there is no other way, but you have to use PowerShell, right? In case people who are not aware, how many of you are aware of RAID array? If you're talking about auto growth, I've shown it. But if you're talking about scalability, if you say no, like I want to go and increase the performance of SQL Server by adding arrays of disk. So then for that, you have to make a RAID array. Everybody's aware of the RAID array of SQL Server? Yeah. In case you're aware, then I will not cover it. So, okay. Oh, no, okay. Strange. See, what happens is, okay, let me explain that. If you want to do performance, if you want to improve performance, or if you want to do load balancing, I will say rather, in case of SQL Server, right? Because what happens is in IIS, it is very easy. You can have a load balancer here, and you can have many IIS thing out here. In case of a Docker, you will have Kubernetes, right? Or you can also have a proper load balancer. But when it ends up into one SQL Server. So you like to say, no, alone, like this also should be having, some kind of some kind of a thing, like how we have a gardening or a farming out here, right? So in that case, what you can do is you can create a RAID array. So what is a RAID array? A RAID array is nothing but, so you have an array of hard disks. See, what is the main problem? When you talk about, in case of SQL Server or in case of any database, the main problem is in IO, input output, when you write to the hard disk and when you read from the hard disk. Now, if you just have one head to read it, or if you just have one chip to read it, right, definitely it's a bottleneck. But if you say no, like I can do a multiple parallel read and I can do a parallel write, then it is good, right? So what they do is they have an array of hard disks out here like this, RAID 0, RAID 5, RAID 1, please read it, right? And your SQL Server, what it can do is, assuming that you are using a simple HDD out here, it will have multiple heads who can write and read from you, right? Like this. In case you have a flash drive, then that's a different case. Again, that is multiple read, right? So an array is nothing but, an array of hard disk is nothing but where the SQL Server will actually have multiple disks. And whenever he says, okay, I want to store a MDF file. So what happens? If I have an MDF file, something will be stored here, something will be stored here, something will be stored here. It will definitely make sure that all of this thing will actually be formed as one unit. But the good part is that now I can write here also. Parallelly, I can write here also. Also, I can read from here also. I can read from here also, right? And in that way, you can do it. So in case if you're saying no, like I'm not talking about just the growth, I'm talking about array, then you have to configure a RAID array. To configure a RAID array, pure PowerShell script you have to write. I don't think in Docker there is any way of doing it. Okay, let us see. Little bit clarification regarding, can you please give a explanation regarding Docker local machine and MDF and LDF mapping? Okay, so let us take this question. So the question here is, let us see. Guys, today only we'll do SQL Server. I don't think I will be able to take any new topics. This topic itself is. Can you please give a diagrammatic explanation regarding Docker local machine and MDF and LDF? Okay. See, look at our command of Docker. So let me try to, I can't draw a diagram as such, but let me try this, right? This was the command we were running, right? Everything is in the command. There is nothing separate as such. So this is the command we were running. Okay. Now, if you look at this command out here, this command specifically look at this one, the -v tag. So this command, what it does is, so you have your host machine. So you have your host machine. And inside this, you have your container. which is running. So you're saying Docker run, create this container, right? Whatever is the name, SQL instance 1, this one. Now by saying -v, you are saying volume. The local drives C temp should be mapped or should be available or should be shared with the internal C temp. So you can see this right-hand side is this value and this left-hand side is this value. You can also say temp1. So then temp1 will map to temp. Now what happens once this folder is mapped out here, and when you go inside the container, now your folder is mapped, right? So when you go inside and you say, oh, like, let me go and create a database like this. And when you say, I want to create a DB file, and when you give this path here, C temp, it is mapping to your local temp, right? So when you go and say C temp, it is nothing but your C temp outside, his C temp inside, right? So that's how, it works. So -v host folder to be mapped to the container folder. Okay. Okay. Can you also show attached? You can see now, very good question. The question here is that, can you show example of db.config file? Okay, let us try that. See now already we have this database created. Okay, let us try this. Okay. Means the question is, let me create a table out here. Sir, please show Windows authentication. Ha, bhai, we'll show it. Don't worry. Right. कुछ तो R&D को छोड़ना पड़ेगा. सब कुछ ट्रेनिंग में होगा तो कैसा होगा? Some things you have to do in the R&D, isn't it? Okay. So let us say now I've created a TBL 123 out here, and let us say this container goes down. Okay. So let us say this container is shut off, right? So if the container goes down, so tick, you can see, please, if you want to see the log files, please go to the details out here and you can see log out here. It is showing what is happening at the back, right? So let me go to my containers and let me delete this. So I'm going to go and delete this. So assume that your container has got deleted, instance has got deleted, but your MDF LDF file is still out here. Yeah, BB, yeah, okay, right? Now you'll say, oh, let us do like this. Let us create a container again, but it should attach this MDF and LDF files out there. So that's where the magic comes of the second file they have provided. So if you remember, I said, in this, they have said that you create this db config file. So let us do this, copy. Let me copy from here. Okay. And let us go and C drive. So let us go to the SQL, wherever we have the SQL. And this is our db config file. I will say edit. And in this, we will paste it, right? Now, where is your file? Your file is in C temp. And what is the name of your file? Your file name is this one, right? So rename, let's see, my db123 MDF, my db123 LDF, and database should be my db123. And this, there is no other thing to be attached. Easy. Now, only thing is that when you run the docker run command this time, right, please be on the same folder where the db config file is, right? Or else it's a problem, right? So the db config file is out here. So let us go to edit out here and I'll say cmd. So we'll run our command from here, right? Now, the only thing what will change in the command is, right? So command will be now, everything will be same, right? Only thing is that we will now have the db config file, attach dbs.dbconfig. That's the only thing we need to put, right? So just copy this. Other things are all same. And I'm expecting that when he creates this instance, he should attach a dbconfig file, right? So I'll say enter out here. And this error, why I did not get first? ये error मुझे पहले भी मिलना चाहिए था because I really have only 2 CPUs. So I don't know how did he allocate 3 CPUs, right? Very strange, isn't it? So yes, let me make it a 2. I don't know. I don't get that error previously. Chalo. I know that. Remember, this is when you see this sign out here, you should feel relaxed. Things are working, right? That UID number, when you see, things are working, right? So I'll go to the images out here, and this is the image. Now, let us go and do a inspect. You can see now it is 4.73 GB. Damn it. So let us see what happens. I have a doubt on the DB config file because last time one of our friends was trying to use that DB config file. Sorry, in the container. I have to go in the container. One of our friends had a problem. You can see it has exited. It did not run. So that means something is an issue. No? So let us say view details out here. So let us clear this. Let us try to run this. So you can see at this moment, it's saying status exited, means it did not run successfully. Huh? So let me run this and let us see what happens. In the log file, we should see what the issue is. See, previously without the DB config file, it ran fantastically well. But this time, and you can see very clearly, I don't know, you can see it is clearly saying that I cannot convert to JSON. Invalid JSON primitive DB config. I doubted that config file was not right, but I copy pasted nicely, isn't it? Somewhere I must have messed up with the JSON files. So what is my JSON file? Anything wrong here? This is my DB file. Sorry. This is the previous one. Let me go and I'm so sorry. Let me go back to my folder. SQL. Let us see our DB config file. Anything is wrong? Nothing is wrong. See temp. Let us see inside Visual Studio. It's the config. Same thing. It should be JSON. It does not matter. I can see there is something out here. I don't know, but this something is wrong. Let me go back to the site. What's wrong here? This should be a JSON string in the following format. Note the use of single quotes. So I did do a single quotes. So I mean, like something is wrong out here. I don't know. But let us do like this. This one is also there. I can provide like this as well. Okay. Okay. But whatever, guys, please try this. I mean, like I like this file thing out here. Sometimes you would like to attach many MDF files, right? But you can see here also, and this has to be a string, he is saying. Note that the use of string, it should be a string. This should be a JSON string. Now, like this one is a JSON string. Take this. Let me try last time. Okay. So I'll leave this as homework, but this is how it is. Let me not try this. But I think that we can go and we can pass like this as a string and check it out. Okay. Attach DB name, and try to do that. Okay. So that brings us to the end of the lesson out here. Any questions here, guys? I don't know why that JSON file did not work. No idea. It should be double quotes. Will the double quotes work? I don't think so. He explicitly said single quotes. I can try that. He explicitly said single quotes. Please note, guys, some of the things like, as this training is going at the advanced level, sometimes, some of the things are really more of a R&D type. So I would expect that later on, if you can go and sit and if you can have a look at it once. So like, for example, the double quotes, yes, I also feel so that the double quotes can be one of the things, because the attached DB is having a double quotes at the out. And if he is converting that to a string, then either then the outside should be a single quotes. Let me try this. If it does not work, does not work. Huh? I'll save it. But I have to run Docker again. Okay. I have to run it again. Let me do that. If it does not work, it does not work. But let us give a try with double quotes, because most of the problem gets solved with double quotes many times. Let me run the command from here only. So, right. So the instance has been created. Now remember, it should not exit. If the instance exits, problem. You can see now it is running. You're running here. Rehna chahiye. If this goes and changes to exited, you can see now it has existed. Yeah? So like that's how you if you start working right, you will come to know. And I think it is the same thing. It is not taking it as a single string. Okay. Chalo. But I hope that as a developer, you understand that this error can be fixed, right? Okay. So any other questions, guys? I think we are having C temp in the C. No, I think those are all right. C temp is C temp. Yes, mine is a C temp here. Here is a C temp. This is a C temp. Or upar bhi C temp hai. So in command CMD. No, see previously, okay, in the command, okay. In the command, yes, I should have provided C temp and C temp. It's all there. Instead, okay. Location, yes. Okay, good, Ravindra. Yeah, I can try that. You're right. The SQL image, because that file is out there, right? So the dbconfig file is not here. The dbconfig file is there. You're right. So good catch. Thank you. So, someone is actually watching it. SQL, yes. I should go inside the SQL because my file of that db.json is out here. The db.config is out here. Okay, let us try. Good. Just silly mistakes, huh? So again, let us see. If we again see exit, I will exit. Huh, now. So chalo. Running. And we can go and we can observe. Exited. That's same one. Something is wrong with that. Okay, guys. No issues. Let us not try to do R&D online. Okay. Now maybe double quotes. Okay, now that's possible. So fine. Please give a try. I'm sure that as a developer, you understand that it can be fixed. You have that gut feeling. Ye to fix hoga, you know. So I hope so. How to communicate between different networks? Next time Piyush will do. So we'll create a MVC container. Through the MVC container, we will try to connect using a connection string to the Docker container, right? Sir, please show Windows authentication. Perfect. I will show you, right? So we'll see the Windows authentication as well. I can see one more question here. Sir, please show the Linux container also. I will not be demonstrating Linux, right? Because that would clearly, I would love to actually. Why not? It's not that I don't like Linux, but the perspective I've kept here is Windows and ASP.NET. So for now, let us try to minimize our scope, right? So how are we connecting one SQL Docker instance cleared inside Docker? But for multiple Docker, how can we connect by SSMS? Here you are connecting one SQL instance inside Docker. So multiple, we have to give the IP address. See, every Docker container will get an IP address. So good question here. Now you are using localhost, but what about other ones, right? I have to provide here an IP address. Okay, without that, means here IP address or some name, So I have to provide your IP address. Then it would be able to connect, right? Okay, guys, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, right?